Welcome back, everyone. In our last video, I threw a lot at you, and I hope you walked away understanding the importance of the proper construction of the walls around your exit stairs. If you're an architect, an owner's rep, a general contractor, a drywall contractor, a fire stop installer, or even a building inspector, you used to have the opportunity to say, I did the best I could, and it's a cop-out. But people who want to pass the buck, they'll always find a way, but not with you and not with life safety. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here with me. So let's get down to it. In our last video, we talked about the fact that the head of wall and the bottom of wall in our stairs both need to be fire stopped because the smoke won't care where the joint is. If it can get through, it will. We talked about how the area behind the stair runner is going to be a challenge when it comes to maintaining the fire rating of your walls. In this video, we're going to show you a few ways to change that non-code compliant best you could do into something that will actually work. So the challenge is that you don't have access to get behind the stairs when the stairs are installed and the wall is installed. With the traditional fire stop methods, you have to have the wall in place in order to fire stop the joint. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to 3 ways that you could solve this problem. As you can guess, the big change you'll have to make if you want to avoid this life safety issue is that you have to plan differently than you may have in the past. If you have a QC team, then task them with this. If you don't, assign someone on your team to keep an eye on your drywall contractor and make sure that you know the schedule so they know when to check in with your drywaller. Whoever you assign this task to, ask them to watch these videos. At a minimum, the last one we did on stair problems, but ultimately the one on how rated walls are tested, how rated joints are tested, and also the one on the difference between regular gypsum and Type X gypsum board. If they want even more information, we can help with that as well. So, you'll remember in our last video, there were 2 different ways to build the walls around the exit stairs. The first was when the stair side of the wall would fit between the concrete slab and the stair runner. The second was when we had the wall stop on the edge of the floor slab. This video will cover the second wall construction method, and then in the next video, we'll cover the other scenario, because understanding what we do here will help you more when we get to the other installation method. But don't worry, if your project has that other type of construction, I'm not going to leave you hanging, I promise. We'll get to that in the next video, but don't stop here and skip ahead to that one, because you're going to need to know what we do here so that you can follow along in that next video. If you remember, we're working with a U419 wall, so we can have a minimum of a 3.5-inch framing member that will need to receive 2 layers of 5/8-inch Type X drywall on either side. Again, you need to be sure that the track sits away from the edge of the concrete so there's enough space for the drywall to sit on the concrete as well. You may have seen installations where 1 layer of drywall hangs over the edge. If there's a fire in the stairwell, this is a serious concern. The wall would not be able to survive the full 2 hours because the heat would impinge upon the inner layer of drywall prematurely and potentially fail. So be sure the entire wall sits on the floor and not over the floor. Of course, the exception to this is when we're running 2 layers of wall past the floor slab, because then it's continuous and the fire dynamics are going to be very different. But then again, we'll get into that in the next video because there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. As you're planning this whole process out, you need to have your fire stop submittals. If you watch the other videos on fire stop devices used in head of wall applications, then you're already familiar with HWD 0624. This detail is for head of wall joint with a 1/2-inch joint. So, here's a question for you. Can you just use that detail, the head of wall detail, upside down for a bottom of wall joint? The easy answer is no. You have to have a bottom of wall detail for a bottom of wall application. In this case, you can use BWS 0024. The installation is going to be the same, just upside down, but still, you want to have the right detail for each application. The head of wall and the bottom of wall tests are actually slightly different. We're not going to get into the specifics of that here, but if somebody asks, you can give them that as a response. If they want to know more, as always, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to explain further. So, here we go. Step 1, you have to have your details ready and have them discussed with your installer. Be sure that they know what we're talking about. Maybe even have them watch these videos. Make sure everybody knows your plan, and here's what it is. Step 1, we're going to set the framing members 1.25 inches from the opening so that there's enough room for the drywall to physically sit on the concrete floor. Step 2, Have someone from your team walk the project before the installers put up the wall so that you could be sure to address things before they're built, just in case there's any issues. Step 3. Now, here's where things change from what you may have done in past projects or what you may have seen in some videos. Before we get any further, let me reintroduce you to 3 products that you can use in this application. Let's start with the fire gasket. That's this one. You remember, it has the bubble gasket right here, and it has the intumescent strip, which is our pre-measured dose of fire stop. It has this durable vinyl body, which protects the intumescent strip as the drywall is installed over it, and it has this adhesive strip so that you can install it. So the fire stop detail allows you to use just the adhesive strip to hold it into place, but as an alternative, you can secure it to the drywall track with a number 8 framing screw. Once you've installed this with one method or the other, I'm sure you have a preferred way that expedites your installation, and that could vary from team to team, so I'm not going to tell you what's best. I'm certain that you can figure that out. So, whether you secured the fire gasket to the track before it's shot to the concrete or after, I'm going to leave that to your team. But that's going to be your steps 3 and steps 4. After that's done, you'll install the 2 layers of drywall, and your fire stop is already in place. That's step 6. Step 7 will be your inspection. So is your project going to have third-party special inspection of fire stop or just a jurisdictional inspection? Regardless of the answer to that question, you want to discuss the scheduling with the inspector so you know if they want to see the installation before the drywall goes up or after. So that covers one possible solution. You can use the fire gasket. There are 2 other options you can consider for this application. They are the Fire Bead and the Hot Rod XL. They're different, but they're both going to be installed the same way. You remember these guys. The Hot Rod XL uses the Hot Rod Type X product that has this foam and then an intumescent strip right here, but then it pairs it with this vinyl body and the mud leg, and that's what's going to be a game changer. You'll see what I mean in a moment. But first, let me introduce you to this one. This is the Fire Bead. It has this bubble gasket and the vinyl mud leg, and then it has this section that reaches to the back track. So you want to be sure you have the 1-hour device for the 1-hour walls or a 2-hour device for a 2-hour wall so that this leg is long enough to reach back to the framing member. So typically you have 2 different installation options. You can install the drywall and then install either of these devices into the opening. But again, you're not going to want to spend time feeding this 10-foot long piece behind the stair runner. So you may want to choose the other option. And you'll do the same thing for both devices. So here's what you do. Here's your drywall. And you can take a 847 spray adhesive and then secure this in place and staple it. Be careful that you lay them out so that you have all of your tight butt joints. Then you're going to install the drywall and your fire stop is already in place. If there happen to be any gaps, you'll just need to get an engineering judgment from the manufacturer. But please be sure that you don't have any seams behind the stair runner. Now this isn't a requirement, but if you have a joint behind the stairs and there's a problem, you're going to have a really hard time fixing it. These devices are 10 feet long, so you should be easy enough to avoid that problem. If you want to go this route, that means you may have to plan your layout a little bit differently than you may have in the past. Now you know these 3 products you can use for both head of wall and bottom of wall details in what could be an impossible fire stop application. Remember, the finish will be different depending on which of these 3 products you use. So what do you do if you want to have a nicer finish? We'll address that in your next coffee break. In that video, we're going to get into some more unconventional solutions, but before you jump into that, please be sure that you watch the video on the difference between the regular drywall and the Type X drywall, because we'll make reference to that video in the discussion, and I don't want you to be confused when I start making references to puzzle pieces. As always, I want to thank you for your time, and if there's anything I can do to help you understand this better or to resolve a problem that you're facing in the field, don't hesitate to give me a shout. If you have any questions about these products, how to get them, how to use them, or anything else, I'll include the manufacturer's contact information at the end of this video. As always, I want to say thank you for your time. I hope that this video has been useful. If it has, please like, share, and comment on your favorite social media and share it with everyone that might benefit from this. Until then, I'll see you for your next coffee break.